when you're trying to hold space for so many people's experiences and the various things that they're going through, sometimes it gets to a point where kind of your bucket is full with their experiences and having, people share things with you. You're wearing a bit of a sticky suit, and sort of every person you encounter is sticking things to you. And so, increasingly the suit gets heavier and sweatier and hotter, and you need to figure out how you can release some of that stuff that's clinging to you. And I think, eventually, if you don't take care of that, it becomes really hard to continuously be compassionate for everyone that you encounter and also just systems that are kind of broken. And so I think it's really important to understand compassion fatigue. It's really hard to continuously be in that space of receiving those things from other people and the stuff that's other going through without finding some healthy ways of letting that go.
Hi, friends. Ever wondered how you could turn your big ideas into results? Together, let's reimagine a better sector, tackle systemic issues, and yes, raise some serious cash. Welcome back to The Small Nonprofit, the podcast where your passion meets action. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Small Nonprofit Podcast. If you're new here, my name is Maria Rio. I'm your host. I have over 10 years of fundraising experience, and I'm on a mission to make fundraising and nonprofit work as easy as possible for executive directors like yourself. To do just that, I have someone to talk to you all about wellness here today. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Maria.
Laura, how's it going? For the people who don't know you, explain a little bit about who you are.
My name is Laura Istead. I am the executive director of a small nonprofit based in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We're called Two Wheel View. We help young people build life, leadership, and employment skills, and we do that using bicycles. So we run youth employment programming, earn a bikes for junior high and high school students where they learn all sorts of skills through bike mechanics, and they get a chance to earn a bicycle lock, helmet, and toolkit. We work with about 350 young people each year in the Calgary area. We also run employability programming for youth that are facing barriers to employment that are in the 18 to 24 age category. We run a social enterprise bike shop. So there's always kind of lots of things going, lots of wheels turning, so to speak. And I've been with the organization for 15 years and the executive director for 8.
Okay, wow. So you've definitely been there a really, really long time. When did you start thinking about nonprofit wellness? Was it before this role, during your role? I know being an executive director is a very challenging role. So just walk us through that as well.
Yeah, I think it's just been based on my experiences through my current role, really, and connecting with other folks in the sector, other executive directors, and just recognizing that people are struggling and people are having a hard time. There's a lot to balance, and particularly the leadership role. And then obviously, you're also carrying a lot of mission, you're carrying a lot of pressure when it comes to fundraising. There's a lot of sleepless nights, and I talk to a lot of folks, and I'm really fortunate to have some great friends in the sector to be able to reach out to and say, hey, this, wild and unexpected thing happened to me today. And, you start to see your friends kind of, struggling with finding a sense of joy in the work and things like, secondhand trauma and compassion fatigue and burnout. And all of those have happened to me. So I've become really interested in how can we do better as a sector? Obviously, there's lots of forces upon us that cause some of these situations, but also internally, we have some different things that we carry as identities in our sector that create opportunities for burnout and create opportunities for us to really struggle in our roles and have a hard time connecting with the really awesome parts of what we get to do. And it is really such a privilege to work in this sector. The people who work here are incredible, and the people that we get to support are incredible. But how do we tap into that joy and the fun and make sure that we're taking care of that part of the work too? Because that'll only help us do our missions better.
So you use the term compassion trauma. I feel like a lot of us can surmise what that means, but just for anyone who's confused, what does that mean to you?
What it means to me is that when you're trying to hold space for so many people's experiences and the various things that they're going through, sometimes it gets to a point where kind of your bucket is full with their experiences and having, people share things with you. You're wearing a bit of a sticky suit, and sort of every person you encounter is sticking things to you. And so, increasingly the suit gets heavier and sweatier and hotter, and you need to figure out how you can release some of that stuff that's clinging to you. And I think, eventually, if you don't take care of that, it becomes really hard to continuously be compassionate for everyone that you encounter and also just systems that are kind of broken. And so I think it's really important to understand compassion fatigue. It's really hard to continuously be in that space of receiving those things from other people.
Especially as an executive director, like it's lonely at the top. There's people who may not understand all your relationships with board members or service users or staff. So, like, I really like that you were saying that you reached out to a friend when you started to get stressed. Is your friend also a nonprofit staff person?
Yeah, so I have a number. I actually have kind of a collection of nonprofit EDs that I have gathered over the years and always welcome more connections. It's such a unique position in the sector. Actually, I think it's like a unique position generally because you have anywhere from, 2 to 3 to 15 people who volunteer to be your boss, which is really incredible. They care a lot about the causes, but they often have very little or to no experience of having done your job or worked in the sector before, and they mean well, but it can be hard to describe what you experience with those folks. And then conversely, you can't always openly share with your staff either. There's a couple of us that have a text chat too, where it's just like, this is the weird thing that happened to me today. Can you believe this happened to me? Recently, I texted one of them and I said, can you believe we actually had a literal dumpster fire today? It happened in our alley. And that's the kind of stuff that other people can help you laugh about as well. Being able to sort of look to the left and the right of you and know that there's a few people in the trench that are like, okay, I understand exactly how this role plays out. I understand the nuance of it. I understand how complicated it can be. I understand how beautiful it can be too. And the things that we get to do are so amazing. And the change that we get to make is really an honor and a privilege, but it's also really hard and draining. And you're carrying a lot, and a lot of people, both from your staff, the board, the folks that you're serving, they kind of all weighs on you a lot, and you carry a lot of it for everyone all the time.
I find that type of peer support super helpful for anyone in nonprofit. Like, I really encourage fundraisers to talk to other fundraisers at different organizations, EDs to talk to other EDs. But I find that sometimes senior leadership can get stuck because they're like, I don't know how to find another executive director in my niche, or I don't know how to start a conversation or a relationship. Like, we have this real hesitancy to share what's going on behind the curtain as well. So I'd love to hear how you started building those networks with people outside of your organization. And if there was any like testing the waters with the trust building.
I like to look at the world, at least the nonprofit world, in terms of collaborators. Yeah, we are competing for funding. There's different types of resources that are out there that we're competing for. But I've always tried to really look at the other folks in the sector and the other leaders is like, how can I learn from them? How can I support them? If we didn't get the grant, like I really hope that one of my friends gets the grant. I think it's helpful to not put yourself in a space where it's like us versus them, and really being generous with your time and your network and your support can also draw people to you. And I think it's about being generous with your time and your network to the best of your ability, and really a success for someone else in the nonprofit is a success for everyone. If we're on a mission to make the world a better place, then how that's done looks, countless ways. And if we're cheering each other on, then I think that helps build better real connections with other people. It takes time, like any relationship, and certainly building relationships as an adult. And I also think, in building relationships, a lot of grace is needed. If the executive director you want to be friends with or support or connect with or seek mentorship from doesn't get back to you right away, like giving them grace and understanding that life is complicated and it's complicated in these roles. A lot of us are not just, executive directors, there's parents, and some of us are in caring roles with our parents at this stage. And so there's lots of things going on for people. And it's not necessarily that they're trying to ice you out, is that they may just be trying to like survive this season, or might be in a busy season with their work and their programs. One thing I heard recently that I thought was really great was sponsoring people. So bringing up other people's names in rooms that they're not in, just authentically say, hey, I know somebody you should connect with. And that can feel risky from a, funder conversation standpoint sometimes, but I think it's worth it in the end. And that kind of stuff comes back to you, or in my experience, really positively.
Okay, so I love everything that you're saying. And I do see executive directors are very tired. They're going through a lot. They have external responsibilities too. Maybe they're on a board, maybe they have caretaking responsibilities. How do you make time for wellness? And what does that look like?
In 2021, I was burnt out and I could see it. I'm losing my joy for my work. I'm losing my joy for lots of things. And I felt like I didn't have any hobbies. I felt like all I knew how to do was my job. And I was really fortunate. I have a great board and I spoke to them about it. And I said, I need some time off in 2022. So I was able to take a number of weeks off, which I know is very much a privilege that not everybody can do. But that really helped kind of reset me. And it helped me recognize even just the things that I had not even noticed that were going on for me. Like I had gone to see my sister who was living in the UK at the time, and I didn't recognize that there had been a consistent buzzing in my head until I was there for 10 days. And I was like, wait a second, I don't hear the thing anymore. Who knows how long those kinds of physical symptoms had been there. And so I think it is really about carving out that time and recognizing that that'll help you be a better leader. It's scary. Don't get me wrong. It is scary to sort of let that go and sit in a space where you're like caring for yourself more. But honestly, you can do a much better job in leadership. You can do a much better job as a well-rounded human if you focus on that. And I would say I get more done now. I'm better at empowering my team to do more things, which has been really positive and amazing to see their growth. Yeah, it can be tricky if you founded an organization, or in my case, I took over from a founder. That kind of change in control can be really terrifying in lots of ways. And I think we're a very high achieving bunch in the nonprofit sector, and that can be very hard. But I think you have to find ways of like trying to let that go and trying to recognize that we deserve to be treated in the same way we would treat our participants or our client, and that we deserve that same love and care and connection that we're trying to provide for them.
I was thinking something very similar, kind of like we put the mission so much higher than ourselves. Like we value it so deeply that like we do everything to build up its health and wealth, but we don't do that for ourselves. We put ourselves under the mission, which is really nice, but does lead to this burnout cycle that we keep seeing in our sector.
There's a lot of forces on us that causes this kind of situation for sure. Funding, structure, policy, government, lots of things. But I think we're also kind of martyrs a little bit too. We're kind of a little bit of our own worst enemy. The more you can pour into support yourself and finding joy and fun and connection, both in work and outside of work, we will be able to do our jobs for more and be able to support and serve more people and be able to make sure that the communities are moving forward in the ways that we would like them to if we take the time to do that. Like they say, you can't pour from an empty cup. So I think it's really important to be able to invest in those things. And I see it in my team when we invest in that stuff. And, I think it helps with turnover. It helps just with our own, mental health too. And these causes are important, and they're too important for us to not do something about it. But if we can't do that from a place of health and capacity, then we're kind of making the problem worse a little bit.
I do want to touch upon something that I thought was really interesting, and I want my audience to hear about it. Tell us about this bowling tournament.
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, from my recovery from burnout, I was coming back and I'm thinking, I got to find ways to like not get back there again. Like it was a kind of a terrifying experience, honestly, and trying to find ways to like build and to find joy and capture joy in my own life. And I thought, I've carried a mission of an organization for 15 years now, but the thing that's really kept me in the sector is these folks that I've been able to connect with. And so what if I could convince some of them to come and have, beers and nachos with me once a month and see what happens? And so I just started organizing these events, which eventually rolled into the creation of the Social Sector Club, which is a club here I run here in Calgary. And we meet monthly. We've started now doing capacity building trainings this summer, or earlier this year. I just been kind of knocking around the idea with some people. I'm like, one day I'm going to organize a nonprofit bowling tournament because we deserve to have fun. We deserve to goof around and have that team stuff. Corporations have no problem doing these kinds of things. And obviously, there's a little bit of budgetary differences there too. But why couldn't we organize something that would be fun and connective and supportive for our sector? So we did. And so we held the first ever Social Sector Club bowling tournament in August. And it was just so fun to see these different organizations, everything from like 1 and 2 people shops to larger organizations that all had t-shirts made for their team, which is really cool. And we just had a chance really to provide moments of delight and support. We made all kinds of different little swag bits, and we made first aid kits for those days that are hard in nonprofit, where you have like little clappy hands to give yourself an applause and Kleenexes for when, you get a impact email from a participant like I just did an hour ago, and all of these, gold stars, because we never give ourselves enough gold stars. And so we had a lot of fun, and we had some incredible sponsors that supported different things. And we were able to just provide moments of surprise and delight and care for people who work really hard to make our community better. And so we continue to do those things and grow Social Sector Club and get a chance to try some new stuff out. It's been such a fun project and has brought so many amazing people into my orbit as well. And so these gatherings, sell out every month. And it's just been really fun to be able to provide that container for people to connect. And the outcomes have been really cool without really trying to control, the conversation in these gatherings or really have any agenda or presentation. We've had organizations that have connected with some of our technology experts that attend, and now they're getting their email or they're building databases they never thought they were able to have. There's groups of them that have, worked in nonprofit and now maybe have some side hustles similar to you, like in fundraising and different things. And they now meet once a month as having like an accountability group to support the work that they're doing to support nonprofits. And so it's just been really cool to see the sort of ripple effect out in the community of this stronger sector. And it's interesting. People have known me in the Calgary area for a very long time as the bike girl. I've done the bike programming. And so now I introduce myself, people are like, oh, I know where I know you from. You're the Social Sector Club girl. We have a real great community on LinkedIn. And so just continuing to build resources and really hopefully change the conversation on how we treat wellness in our sector.
I do want to take a moment to give you huge props because we see the ripples. That's amazing. And I see the community that you're building, and it is very beautiful. But you went out and built it. You didn't look for a space that already existed. You didn't wait for someone to come to invite you to do this. Like, you did it for yourself. And same thing with advocating for yourself to get like a couple of weeks off work. Like, doing those things can be really, really hard for people in nonprofit. If we do martyr ourselves, it's a hard job, right? But if you don't do it, you're doing a disservice to yourself and to your community. So huge props for you to self-advocate and then also to build something better for other people. I think that's really important.
For me, it's really become my mission, more and more has become, how do we support the sector? Because I think if we invest in, sector capacity building or sector wellness in different ways, then we're touching a lot of missions and we can raise a lot of boats a lot faster if we focus and we kind of put our leverage point into supporting and helping the helpers. And that's really becoming my mission, and things I want to be doing more and more of is supporting those folks. And then the opportunity to really, I think be game changing in the way that we operate. I think in the way that the world sees us. Nonprofits sometimes has a perception issue in levels of government and corporations and things like that. I've bumped into a lot in my career. And so, if we can create greater connectivity and joy and learning and capacity within our sector itself, then I think people will take notice. That's really exciting to think about. That could change, and that I can use my experience of having gone through a lot in my career to help support other people and help to mentor other folks coming up in the sector to have an even better experience than I did.
So if you want a nonprofit friend, call Laura. She wants to be your friend.
Absolutely. I love meeting nonprofit people. They're passionate and kind and caring and have, the creativity that comes out of our sector in terms of not only programs and projects and organizations that exist, but just the ways that people are getting stuff done is unreal. And so it's really exciting to connect with other people who work in the sector or just, need an ear of somebody being like, yeah, me too. And I don't necessarily know how to change the structure of how some of this stuff works on a, international scale. But I think just having other people in your corner and recognize that other people think it's ridiculous and unnecessary and all the other things that happen to us in the nonprofit sector, that helps to have somebody go, yeah, me too.
I have loved having you as a podcast guest. I feel lighter just talking to you. So
Oh,
I'm
I think
sure our
so.
listeners are definitely going to have a very similar experience. Where can they go to continue the conversation with you?
Absolutely. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. People can also connect with Social Sector Club on LinkedIn. We have all of the links to the other things, but yeah, LinkedIn is where kind of all the people are gathering, and we'll have links to a website that we're working on and all of the other opportunities. And we're hoping to, move this beyond Calgary too. Us in Calgary are not the only folks going through these similar things. And so looking for opportunities to connect with folks all across everywhere that your listeners are, and would love to, make myself available to have conversations with folks that want to talk more about this stuff, because I love this.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being a guest today.
Thank you, Maria. It was really awesome to talk to you. And thank you for what you do in the community. I think helping nonprofits and providing this voice out there in the community is so important because it all matters and it all gets us to where we need to go and where the community can grow to. So thank you for what you do.
We don't have to feel alone. We're going through it together. So coming together is really important and really special. So thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Small Nonprofit Podcast. As always, if you want to see our beautiful faces, you can check this video out on YouTube, comment and subscribe to tell the algorithm that you want more fundraising tips and nonprofit tips like these ones. But that's it for us today. I hope that you took something away from this and start building your own little communities and start addressing problems that you might be seeing in the sector in your own unique way, because as you see, there's so many ripple effects coming out of this, and wellness is a big, big thing in our sector right now. So something that we can't really overlook. But thank you again for joining us. And that's it for today. Until next time. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to another episode of The Small Nonprofit. If you want to continue the conversation, feel free to connect with our guests directly or find me on LinkedIn. Let's keep moving money to mission and prioritizing our well-being. Bye for now.